The abandoned Church of St. Ivors had long been forgotten by the people of Grendale. Its broken windows, rotting pews, and leaning bell tower stood as hollow reminders of a time no one cared to remember. Most avoided it, not out of fear, but because of something harder to name. A lingering feeling that the place was somehow still alive. One overcast morning, Noah, a restless and curious young man, found himself standing before its crumbling doors. He didn't know why he was drawn there, only that an unseen pull seemed to guide his steps. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old paper and damp wood. Dust floated lazily in beams of faded light, and there, resting on the altar where no one had dared to tread for decades, was a book. It was large, bound in black leather with no title on the cover, as if it didn't want to be known. Noah approached cautiously. The book lay open, but its pages were blank. With a mixture of wonder and apprehension, he reached out and brushed his fingers across the paper. At once, words began to appear, as if written by an invisible hand. All things lost are never truly gone. Noah recoiled, then leaned in closer, watching as sentence after sentence bled across the pages like living ink. The next night he returned, unable to resist. The words had changed. Now the book told stories of the town's buried past, confessions, betrayals, sins whispered only in shadows. Events no one had ever spoken aloud, but that Noah somehow recognized through old, faded rumors. Night after night, the book transformed. Sometimes it recounted secrets of villagers long dead. Sometimes it prophesied events that hadn't yet happened. A devastating storm, an unexpected disappearance, a betrayal that would soon unfold. Each prophecy, impossible as it seemed, proved true. Noah became obsessed. He tried telling others, but when he brought anyone with him, the book showed only empty pages. It responded only to him, as if their fates were now intertwined. One evening, the writing was different. It was no longer about the town. It was about him. The reader becomes the written. Fear crept into Noah's bones. He flipped desperately through the pages, but the book now chronicled his own life. Each step, each breath, each fleeting thought captured in dark ink. And then it spoke of things that hadn't happened yet. A choice, a doorway, an ending. Panicked, he tried to leave the church, but the doors would not move. The windows, so brittle before, were like walls of stone. The final lines written that night chilled him to his core. It was not you who found the book. It was the book that found you. Noah realized too late that he hadn't merely stumbled upon a forgotten relic. The book had called him, shaped him, and was now writing the final chapters of his existence. As the candlelight in the church flickered and died, the ink continued to flow across the pages, recording the silent surrender of another soul to its endless living story. As Noah stood frozen, staring at the swirling words above the altar, the heavy scent of old wood and candle wax filled the air. He barely noticed the sound of hurried footsteps approaching, until a hand gripped his shoulder. A man, weathered by time but sharp-eyed, motioned for him to follow without a word. "This place isn't what it seems," the man whispered. Leading Noah through the twisting aisles, the man pulled aside a rotting tapestry, revealing a narrow stone staircase spiraling downward into darkness. Without hesitation, they descended, the church groaning and warping above them. In a hidden crypt beneath the church, the man finally spoke. "My name is Abram. 20 years ago, the book found me too." Noah listened, wide-eyed, as Abram explained. The book didn't just reveal secrets, it created a chain of events. Every vision of the future it showed was not just prophecy, it was invitation. Left unchallenged, these visions hardened into destiny. But if someone recognized them in time and acted, the chain could be broken. "It gave you glimpses, didn't it?" Abram asked. People arguing, a fire in the square, the well drying up. Noah nodded. "Those aren't predictions," Abram said grimly. "They're seeds. Fix them and you fix your story." Abram had failed 2 decades ago. Fear had paralyzed him, and the village paid the price. He had been bound to the church ever since, unable to leave, a watcher trapped between moments, aging slowly, but never truly living. "You have one chance, Noah," Abram said, pressing a silver medallion into his hand. "Prevent what you saw. Heal the breaks before they shatter." The medallion shimmered, and suddenly images flooded Noah's mind more clearly. The child lost in the woods. A careless lantern knocked over near the market. Explosions near a dam that could divert the river. Each event was a fracture point. Solve these, and the curse of the book would end. Fail, and he would become like Abram, a prisoner of time. The crypt trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Noah pocketed the medallion, determination hardening inside him. His story wasn't finished yet. He would fight for it. Noah stumbled out of the crypt, Abram's words and the final warning burning in his mind. He had to stop the tragedies, or the village, and himself, would vanish into silence. The book had shown him glimpses, flashes of fire, of water raging, of a child's desperate cries lost among the trees. But it hadn't told him when they would happen, or how. Only one thing guided him now: instinct. And the strange medallion Abram had placed in his hand before disappearing into dust. The first sign came at dawn. A chill ran through Noah as he walked past the woods. Something pulled at him. Without thinking, he veered off the path into the misty forest. The medallion warmed in his pocket, vibrating with a faint hum whenever he chose the right direction. Hours passed. Branches tore at his skin. The silence deepened. Then, a whisper, a whimper. Following the sound, he found the missing boy curled under the roots of an old oak tree, shivering, too weak to cry out. Tears stung Noah's eyes as he carried the boy back to the village. The reunion was a flood of relief and gratitude, but Noah barely had time to catch his breath. That same afternoon, as the sun bled into the horizon, the medallion grew hot against his chest. The market. He sprinted through the alleys just as a lantern, jostled by the evening rush, tipped from its hook. It caught a curtain. Flame bloomed instantly. Without hesitation, Noah seized a barrel of rainwater and doused the blaze, coughing in the smoke. Vendors and townsfolk rushed to help, patting his back, unaware how close they had come to losing everything. But Noah knew it wasn't over. Night fell. The medallion pulsed again, this time pulling him toward the distant rumble of the river. Explosives, left behind by old quarrymen. A forgotten charge ticking toward disaster. He arrived breathless at the riverbanks, the ground trembling underfoot. By the faint light of the moon, he spotted the wires. He tore them free with trembling hands, tossing them into the current moments before they could ignite. The water, so close to spilling over into the village, continued its patient, ancient course. Untouched. Saved. When Noah stumbled back into the abandoned church, the first light of morning spilled through the broken windows, bathing the forgotten pews in gold. The book awaited him, resting on the altar like a beating heart. But something had changed. As he touched its worn cover, it didn't resist him. The pages no longer shifted chaotically, no longer whispered futures he had no say in. Instead, the words inside were steady, calm, the reflection of a soul no longer shackled by fear. There, written in a hand more human than mystical, was a simple sentence: "The story now belongs to you." At that moment, a presence stirred behind him. Turning, Noah saw the old man, Abram, standing fully formed, his face serene, no longer weighed down by invisible chains. Tears glistened in Abram's eyes as he approached. 20 years, he whispered. 20 years trapped between pages, waiting for someone to choose their own path. The curse that had bound him, that had frozen him in time, neither alive nor dead, had finally been broken, not by strength, not by magic, but by a heart willing to defy fate. Abram placed a hand on Noah's shoulder, a warmth passing between them. Then, with a peaceful smile, his form shimmered into countless points of light, vanishing into the new morning. Free at last. Noah stepped outside the church, the medallion heavy against his chest, a reminder of what had been lost and what had been saved. The village stirred to life around him, oblivious to how close they had come to tragedy. The boy played safely with his friends. The market bustled with laughter instead of ash. The river ran its patient course as it had for centuries. Noah took a deep breath. For the first time in his life, his path was unwritten. No cursed book, no invisible hands tugging at his destiny, just the vast open road of choices, some hard, some joyful, but all truly his. And somewhere, as he walked away from the old church for the last time, he swore he heard a final whisper carried by the wind. The future bends for those who dare to live it.